everyone, and welcome to Global Gurus, where every Friday we explore stories of international business and speak with industry leaders operating around the world. I'm your host, Philip Auerbach of Auerbach International. Thank you for joining us. This time, we start each podcast with a running segment called Faux Pas Fridays, where we explore a funny blooper or mistranslation that does not quite convey the professional image that your organization wishes to project. So as an example, today's guest has worked in over 50 countries, one of which is Hungary, and a sign in the Budapest Zoo said in English, "Please do not feed the animals. If you have any suitable food, please give it instead to the guard."
That was funny. Good one.
Thank you. So today's guest is Alvina. Al has collaborated with the IMF, the World Bank Group, the UNDP, USAID, and US embassies and diplomatic missions worldwide as a market entry and economic development consultant. He has consulted with presidents of countries and senior diplomats based in Washington and worked in economic development in frontier and emerging markets of Central and Eastern Europe. He has also been a GS-12 civil servant in the US federal government and managing ARA funds initiated by the White House. As a former Peace Corps volunteer in Romania, Al has authored books on the Fourth Industrial Revolution and the position of the social media platform in global economic development. Currently, he is leading a humanitarian campaign to help emerging and frontier markets build capacity through his faceconomics concept, a new world market strategy utilizing social media in economic development worldwide. Welcome, Al. Delighted that you can join us.
Thank you, Philip. It's truly an honor and a privilege to be able to have this conversation with you. You are one of the pioneers that have shaped in the new world marketplace, if I can say it that way. I've researched your background and listened to your YouTube videos, and I must say I'm one of your fans. So thank you so much for accommodating me and having this conversation.
Well, thank you. And just for full transparency, I have not paid Al a penny for those wonderful words. Thank you so much.
I mean that, Philip. Thank you for your time.
So in your background, you talk about the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Can you define for us what that is? And then very separately, what do you mean by frontier market?
Right. The Fourth Industrial Revolution is the evolution of capacity worldwide in the marketplace. In the past, when the cotton gin was developed and the printing press was developed, and even the power grids, the electrical systems, they qualify under the Third and Second Industrial Revolution. The Fourth Industrial Revolution is our ability to interact with machine, which is computer, artificial intelligence, that we are now utilizing not just in the marketplace, in our place of business or work, but we're also connected to our computers at home, and even on our wrists using our Fitbit. So that's a significant change in how people operate and people live their lives compared to the past civilizations. So as far as frontier market goes, these are markets that are slowly developing their capacity. They're not quite developed according to IMF standards or OECD standards, but they're within their ability to expand and support market development and infant industries in those markets. So that's never been done before. It's in human history ever. Most of the Western civilizations that evolved have already had the resources and knowledge to advance. But today, virtually everybody, regardless of what part of the continent in the world, they're advancing significantly fast because of the Fourth Industrial Revolution technology. thanks to the Western ideas, Western concepts, because innately Western society have always wanted to evolve and develop capacity worldwide. That's why the age of discovery happened. That's why countries were colonized back then. And so it's, yes, we may live in a very intellectually driven society today, but we're still adapting and preserving Western values in the good form of Western values. So that's what this is all about, right?
Fascinating. And when you say capacity building, basically it means the physical infrastructure of the country, right? Roads, schools, hospitals, telecom systems, all of that, but it also is human capacity.
Absolutely.
Education, building up skills, creating jobs, creating better agriculture, better industries, whatever the case may be, to build the economy.
Right. Absolutely. Yes.
And give some examples, please, of some frontier economies, frontier countries.
Right. This would be, the Republic of Moldova, Timor-Leste, Palestine, Madagascar. Countries that have been significantly small but had lack of resources because of their inability to trade and export. But in today's world, the new market world, these countries are actually leapfrogging in terms of capacity in their advancement and economic development initiatives and portfolios.
And this is because of the internet, or because of Facebook, or because of other social media platforms?
It could be attributed to social media platform, definitely, because they're now able to share and promote their local communities and countries to attract FDI, foreign direct investment, attract tourism, attract new potential immigrants into their countries that are well educated to help build capacity. There's digital nomads, for example. I don't know if you've heard of the term digital nomads, but
yes,
countries are now giving visas to digital nomads so that they would go and build, the business and entrepreneur environment in those markets. And so technology have not just changed our way of doing business or work, maybe teleworking or hybrid working, but it's also changed the way our systems is being developed and promoted worldwide. And I think that's just going to be a consistent evolution of the marketplace, especially in today's reality after the pandemic. Just because the pandemic actually created an opportunity for the world markets to diversify operations and also experiment on new ways of doing business. So that's the trajectory of the supersonic speed that markets and countries are now evolving into.
It is fascinating. It's very, very true. So we've had the internet in this country since before. Well, Facebook started in, was it 2004?
Yes, that's correct.
The internet was before that, let's say around 2000.
Oh yeah.
And the internet is still coming to a lot of these developing countries, frontier economies. Is that right?
That's very true. But on top of just the internet, they are also utilizing smartphones, and these smartphones are increasing their ability to basically market their products and services around the world. And yes, the internet happened. Well, we've had the internet for the longest time, way before 2000, but we have a very different internet system today, which is 5G.
Yes.
and that in itself is a major game changer in terms of capacity and our ability to increase market capacity. So that's I think we need to encourage the population here in America to think outside the box, to become more visionary minded, because that's the new normal. That's what's changing markets.
Yes.
Becoming more proactive and decisive in terms of our approach. We need to teach our population to become leaders and pioneers in whatever it is that they're passionate about. Become more entrepreneurial in the way they think, and promote capacity building among our friends, family, and allies around the world. That is the new normal. And when people say new normal means advancement. It means thinking outside the box, and so it's nothing to be worried about or fear.
To build on the concepts you've just related, when I give presentations, I remind people that around 72% of the world does not speak English.
Right.
And that's an enormous market that Americans tend to overlook.
Sure.
And 89% of internet users are outside the United States.
Right, absolutely.
So if we've got 10% and basically 90% is in the world.
That's a big chunk of, the pie.
That's a huge chunk of the pie that people are often overlooking. So how did you get into, what is your background in terms of growing up and getting into this whole global mindset and this
right different... I come from my parents are immigrants, and I've been exposed from the Philippines, and so pretty much grew up being influenced by various cultures, mentalities, and mindset. I've got German relatives. My dad had at one point in his career worked in the Middle East in Saudi Arabia. And throughout my life, especially growing up in Norfolk, Virginia, we were surrounded by Greeks, Eastern Europeans, South Americans. So I never grew up in a country or a society that everybody looks, thinks, and act like me or speak like me. I grew up in a part of the country where everybody's from somewhere else, and I think growing up in that kind of environment, and especially now in my generation of Americans, have significantly developed this, this hunger to learn about the world and to see, what's different and what's worth, learning more about the mysteries of the world, the mysteries of people groups, the mysteries of the transitions of societies into a more, affluent societies, robust, efficient societies. Those were the things that I was interested in knowing about growing up. And so I, majored in international business, studied in UK, and then studied a part of my program also in Jerusalem. But, I feel...
Were you in Jerusalem after 1967, I assume?
Yes.
It was united, was one united city.
Right.
So, of course, then you saw the Israelis and the Palestinians interacting together.
Right. Yes, that's true. Yeah. So I don't feel as if there is one country that is monolithic. I see countries and cultures united by culture and influences within those culture that are positive, and those are what I try to take out from all my experiences, is take out positives of each cultures that I've been influenced by, and I feel very fortunate to be an American. I feel very fortunate to grow up in a society where we embrace diversity, we embrace, people from all over the world. And so now I'm the byproduct of America.
That's fabulous, truly great. Can you give us some specific examples of how you've introduced products through the internet, through smartphones, through technology into some frontier markets, for example?
Yeah, we utilize social media as a platform. So we transcend product placement. We're not just trying to place a brand or a service on our platform. We actually want to influence them to learn through knowledge transfer via our platform, which is called faceconomics, the utilization of the social media platform in economic development. So it becomes more interactive and intuitive in terms of building market brand presence. We're actually sharing information that people can utilize and evaluate, places to go visit, for example, tourism sectors, and new products that are being, marketed around the world, and the.
Let me interrupt you for a moment. So are you using your faceconomics platform to transmit like educational knowledge, like mathematics, for example, a mathematics course, or are you teaching farmers about better farming methods, or are you introducing new products that can enhance their lives?
Right, exactly. Social media is a diverse platform, right? There's ways to teach people certain ways, lessons, trainings, and also.
Are you doing all of that or some of that?
Our concept is to utilize the platform. So we're not specifically targeting, a specific performance, but we're targeting the utilization of the platform. So a good portion of what we do is to encourage the use of social media around the world to influence, capacity building and entrepreneurship, maybe brand promotion or services that would create value. So our concept is not just specifically targeting demographics, for example. We want people to appreciate the new tool that we have in the new world marketplace that was never ever available in history of mankind. So we're now exposed to ideas and concepts and even mentalities around the world that creates value because of the social media platform.
When you talk about influence, can you give me some specific examples of, again, products or concepts that you're promoting on your platform that would influence others?
Right. So I promoted my book on our platform, for example, right? And the book in itself was used to promote our concept of social media, faceconomics as a social media platform and economic development. That's been utilized in various markets, but because of the diversified ability of social media to encourage people to use either video vlogging or podcasting or posting on their social media platform, Facebook, it's a so diversified platform that it depends on whoever it is that's posting a product or service on the platform, on who it is that will get access to those materials. So it's not right. It's not like a website. A website endorses a company and product or service. Social media is more it's you can interact using social media, which people are able to ask questions simultaneously, and they can provide an answer. You can provide answers simultaneously. That's what's changed in the way mass communication is done. And mass communication have facilitated industry standards because of social media. You have Twitter, for example. You have Skype, Zoom. All of these were platforms that develop a new norm in capacity building. So markets in the past and traditional, the traditional, like what we know how markets were developed in the past was basically we shared trainings to a group of professionals, architects, bankers, doctors. We trained them one way, and they learn a German way of doing business versus a French way of doing business versus an American way of doing business. It's, the knowledge transfer within that environment is significantly confined. In today's new world market, in today's global, platform on social media, these are all fragmented, and you pick which areas, which school of thought you want to buy into or learn more about or analyze, right? So that gives the viewer or user of social media options.
Right.
So all this are fairly new. It's never been done ever in human history. That's why, in my opinion, the next generation, maybe 10, 20 years from now, are going to be thinking very differently because of the amount of knowledge and information that they've been exposed to. It's so, diversified, and they get to pick and choose which information they want to subscribe to. In the past, there's progressional learning. You expose a kid from, kindergarten all the way to college into a specific type of school of thought, progressional school of thought, classical conditioning. In today's market, if I want to learn how Japanese people, do algebra or calculus versus somebody from France will do calculus or algebra versus somebody in Saudi Arabia will do calculus on algebra, I have that opportunity to do that today. I'm not confined anymore. And so the evolutions of the markets is significantly advanced today and rapidly advancing because of these options that people can leapfrog in terms of building capacity. So it's a new way of statecraft. We're kind of test driving this world of social media today, and who knows what the next big thing's going to be. As long as it provides a solution, it provides some sort of solution to the world's problem, it's going to be embraced. And I think social media has billions of users today because it provided a solution to stagnant market environments. Countries that didn't evolve, didn't develop, didn't create capacity.
Yes.
Today,
now have the opportunity to do so.
Right, absolutely.
It's fascinating.
Sure.
In your consulting of this or study of this, do you come across any cultural issues that become barriers to learning or barriers to spreading the knowledge?
Oh, yes. Many, especially protectionist government, countries that are anti-West, for example. But even then, they're starting to warm up. They're letting their population to get on social media, on Facebook, on YouTube, and accessing, intelligence, knowledge transfer, because they know that's where the evolution of the marketplace is happening. yes, there's going to be pushback, but that's not going to be around very long, especially those countries that have been significantly affected by the pandemic. It's significantly disrupted within the global marketplace because they weren't able to develop their economy. They weren't able to attract investment. Their central banks have limited to no resources to support the market. And that's just that's what they call the reality of today's world. But there's also this school of thought, the new normal is what they say, the new normal. But the new normal can be seen negatively, it can also seen positively depending on who you ask, and the ability of that person to interpret the ability of a segment of a population to improvise and improve quality of life within that market. And most of the influencers today are young people. And so they don't usually, subscribe to, the old school of thought, for example, and being so cookie cutter type of mentality and strict, and it's no longer a value. In the past, those traditionals are of value to society because that's how you keep people together.
Right.
But that's slowly going down.
Let me sort of build upon what you were saying, like protectionist governments. Certainly, if autocracies don't, of course, they don't want the spread of information. They don't want the spread of Western democracy the way we understand it, of course, and they block any controversial political views.
Right.
But something, many traditional societies, for example, have prescribed the role of women, of course, as taking care of the household and the children and the cooking and the cleaning. Right. And all of them.
Absolutely.
And for them to build their economies, they need to recognize that women have a very valuable place in the workforce.
Exactly. Definitely.
But this, of course, poses a problem when Western thinking, through social media, through other means,
right.
Stresses, for example, women's equality or the equality of the genders in terms of the workplace. Obviously, it's still not equal, but it's more equal than it was.
Right.
And it's certainly more equal in Western societies than it is in traditional countries. So do these kinds of issues pose conflicts that you have observed, cultural conflicts, economic conflicts, whatever kind of conflicts, to spread this information and then putting up barriers toward it?
Right. And you brought up a perfect example of how the evolution of the marketplace is playing a role in these countries and markets, and sovereign markets, sovereign countries, where they have their own ability to create their own values and cultures and traditions and norms. But yes, the answer would be absolutely. Most of the decision makers grew up in a very different world and different era, and so they're pushing back. But then again, I was in Eastern Europe, a former communist region, and women today, they are starting their own business. They're becoming executives. They're becoming leaders, politicians, and even in Saudi Arabia. In Saudi Arabia, traditionally Muslim society are now considering having women leaders. So I think the world and people, we have human nature, and the hierarchy of our needs is becoming significantly influenced by social media. The more things that we're exposed to today, the more things that we would want something and feel as if we need certain things to be a part of our lives. And so I think that's just the reality of the marketplace, because at At the end of the day, countries are one block of a marketplace. Everybody are going to consume, and what they would demand, and you have to provide the supply to those demands. So, yes, we definitely live in a very different world, and I'm not just saying this, as it was previously, promoted during the age of discovery when they said, we live in a different world back then. The reason for that is because people are able to get on a boat and live, and move to a different country and start production. But
Right.
today, all bets are off. It's your ability to, think outside of the box, be, a visionary, be an influencer, be an entrepreneur, be that change maker. And just like what you've done, Philip, early on in your career, very few people would want to live in your boots because you created something that it's not easily, replicated. You can't create a substitute to what you're doing. That's what we need today, is that we need to become so motivated as individuals to create something of significant value to the world, provide a solution to the world, and that would lift all boats. Imagine countries that we don't have to worry about wars, not wanting to, not having to deal with continuously developing them by funding them, right?
Right.
And less poverty, more peace, and cultural acceptance. Maybe that's where we're meant to be today. I don't know, but social media was an experiment at one point. Nobody thought that it was going to be this big, up until we started seeing, other countries being influenced by what we do here.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the world that you're defining hopefully is the world of the future. Very much. It's certainly there already and will become even more so the world of the future as more people benefit by what you are doing and by the concepts that you're promoting.
Well, thank you, Phil. But I believe that you started, the whole movement because of what you've done in your career and throughout your life. Like I said, there's not a lot of people that would want to do what you did. You went through all, the challenges and sacrifices to develop, a very unique idea. You're helping influence languages, helping influence markets by helping them understand each other and uniting societies and culture and people groups. No one in their right mind would want to do that because it's so hard. There was no social media when you were growing up.
When I started my language agency over 30 years ago,
right,
the way we communicated was by fax machine.
There you go.
People have no idea what that is.
Right, exactly.
If we wanted to get files from translators, it was either faxed or there was something called a blesser,
right,
which is a way to get a file into a satellite, and then someone uploaded it, and then we had to download it, and it took at least a half an hour, if not an hour, to download something that today is done in seconds. So,
right. So you basically created a model where people gradually took on and started utilizing. So you created the social media of your era so that my generation can kind of tweak it. I don't know if we really created a significant, new concept or idea. It's just the tools that we have today is because of what you guys developed early on in your career and in your life. So I think there's a lesson to be learned in that, because um, there's people in your generation, for example, they're a bit up. I would say pessimistic in how the world is developing, and all these social media platforms being somewhat disruptive in markets. But you didn't see things that way. You saw things as the possibility, the opportunities, versus pushing back and said, okay, this isn't going to work. So you kept on doing what you've been doing. And I think we need to learn from pioneers and visionaries like you, because this is, the social media platform is an experiment, and we need a guiding light to make sure that it's not misused. We had this presidential election, for example, and Twitter and social media platforms were pretty much a key player in the last general election in 2020.
Yes. The U.S. Yes.
So right. So imagine the power that is somewhat kind of above our own government system. These internet giants are now able to silence a sitting president, for example. Twitter remove any access and privileges to Mr. Trump. So all of this is very, I don't know how to even put it. How do you regulate that? How do you make sure that a society, a world that is regulated by the internet giants of the world will continue to be ethical, continue to be,
well, that is an issue for politicians to decide. But I thank you so much for your wonderful ideas and your presentation, and getting people to think, to realize really outside of the box, that what we've created, what your generation has often created, is really spreading to benefit the societies in places, as you say, that have never been touched before, that have been stagnant for generations or centuries.
Sure.
And it's truly wonderful that what you've been doing is really forwarding the process of capacity building and economic development.
Thank you.
So, thank you. So our guest today has been Alvina of Faceconomics, and thank you so much again for joining us today. It's been a great pleasure having you.
Likewise, thank you so much, Phil, for having me. It's been a pleasure to meet you finally. I'm a big fan.
Thank you.
All right.
So this has been Philip Auerbach of Auerbach International. Please join us again next week for another edition of Global Gurus and their stories of international business.